Hello, everyone. My name is Daniel Veronin, student at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and retail specialist, and welcome back to another case study. It has been a while since I recorded my last video, and we are doing it again. Don't worry, I still exist. And I am recording on Veterans Day as we speak, November 11th, so I hope everyone is having a enjoyable, safe Veterans Day. And today we are going to be talking about a case study with Rite Aid. Rite Aid has been on the news recently, or in the retail community specifically, of their major rebranding. If you are familiar with that subject, you already know that this logo that is on the introduction of the screen is an old one, and there's a relatively nice, simplistic new logo. And today we're going to talk about their new image, but what troubles they might retain during their whole procedure of changing their image. So let's go right at it. Okay, so for the case study that we're going to talk about for Rite Aid, we will be introducing the case study. What is Rite Aid? The decline and increased competition in the pharmaceutical and retail market, the associated retail market that they have, the rebranding, restructuring, and remodel of the company, the three R's that I like to name with specific companies that go through this process, the future of Rite Aid, and the ultimate conclusion to our case study. The image in the background is an image I took a picture of in a Rite Aid store, my local Rite Aid store on Wilshire Boulevard, I believe Wrigley and Wilshire in Los Angeles, California. And I really like this Rite Aid store because first they retained their original logo, the original red logo on the outside, in the exterior, in the facade. And when you go inside in the store's interior, it looks like the same 90s design that they used for all stores during that time period. It's like you're stuck in a time capsule. And I decided to shop it. For your life, Rite Aid's got it. Thank you for shopping with us and to make the right choice. Get it? So yeah, that's what it's all about. So let's get right at it. Introduction to our case study for today. So Rite Aid, an American drugstore chain, has suffered from a decline starting in the turn of the 21st century through the 2000s, with factors in place such as competition, scandals, and buyouts. I know this is already a great video of different companies. Rite Aid looked in a position of going out of business or being bought out by another major drugstore chain overall. However, with new revitalization from the leadership team alongside public factors, Rite Aid has managed to recuperate their company goals to essentially complete the three R's, as in the last slide and throughout the presentation, in order to focus on rebranding the company in a different image with their logo, with their stores, and etc. You can all applaud that this presentation is not about a full decline of a company that is out of business or almost out of business, but look into what the company has been through, their attempts and revitalization, and what status they are in right now. With the last video, we looked at, for example, Food for Less, the closure of the location, how big Kmart, and I still agree with it, that it's a failure. The format is a failure from Kmart Corporation. Big Kmart is just, yeah, it wasn't anything um, alongside Toys R Us as well that we looked at too. So this case study for Rite Aid is just essentially looking at the decline that they have suffered through and how they are trying to revitalize their image, but we're going to see what exactly it might take them through. So that's the introduction to the case study. Okay, so after the introduction that we just presented, what is Rite Aid? You might not live in a state that includes Rite Aid, or you might be out of the United States and you say, huh, what's Rite Aid? Well, let's talk about it. Rite Aid is an American-based drugstore chain that helps provide local communities with necessary pharmaceutical drugs while also providing other goods/services such as their delicious thrifty ice cream, GNC Live Well, their type of protein or exercise needing materials and services, Western Union, like money orders, and others. Actually, ironically, I went to a Rite Aid today to get my flu shot, right? Since it's the flu season and we have to go get it. And for the flu shot, they give you a free scoop of thrifty ice cream. So I got my mocha almond fudge scoop on a cone. It was so delicious. It was so great. and that's basically Rite Aid. They offer those pharmaceutical drugs over the counter, or you could buy them. Um, and they offer other services as well. So basically, think of CVS or Walgreens, basically. Rite Aid, surprisingly, is only located in 18 states across the country, the United States, with main states such as California, New York, Ohio, and others. So out of the 50 states in the United States, including Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, Guam, etc., and the U.S. Virgin Islands, there are only 18 states that have a Rite Aid. So, like it's mentioned previously, if you're not in any of the 18 states and you say, huh, I heard of CVS and Walgreens, but now Rite Aid, what is that? This slide is for you. Rite Aid is also associated with Walgreens, mentioned later throughout this presentation, through selling retail stores in the recent years. So basically what you want to get out of the slide is that Rite Aid is a chain of drugstores, basically like CVS and Walgreens, to offer daily needs to individuals. Okay, so after we introduce Rite Aid, we are going to the decline of Rite Aid during the turn of the 21st century and increased competition that also led to their decline. Okay, so here's the decrease of sales and increased competition as well. So starting in the late 1990s, Rite Aid was at a pretty smooth pace, with increasing their store format by doubling its size in 1996 by acquiring other drugstore chains such as Thrifty Payless, Lane Drug, and other American chains. However, financial troubles proved to be troublesome for the long run starting the turn of the 21st century. In 1999, Rite Aid began to restate earnings from prior years due to irregularities that occurred in the accounting department. However, in 2003, 6 former Rite Aid executives were caught in this accounting fraud and false filings that gave Rite Aid a bad image for the public eye, therefore decreasing their stock price and earnings overall. And this actually kind of correlates towards Kmart Corporation with Charles Conway stealing money, technically, or just embezzling it from the company, and he had to pay $5 million, I believe, in 2010 due to a court filing. So aside from this gives the company a very bad image, and also it just decreases their earnings overall, especially from this embezzlement from the accounting department. As a result, Rite Aid was forced to restate its earnings by $1.6 billion due to overstating earnings alongside other convictions in the accounting department. This scheme, alongside underwhelming earnings for consecutive quarters, dramatically dropped their stock price, as shown in the screenshot of Rite Aid's stock price on the side. And this was taken from Google, the stock page from Google. And you can see how Rite Aid just went up so much in 1997, or yeah, you could say beginning of 1997, you have a little short jump around that time, and then it just fell dramatically in the end. And the values, well, before, if you saw the stock price before, probably 3 years ago, you notice on the side it wasn't $1,000, it was way less. That is due to a stock split that occurred with Rite Aid, which increased their stock price, but ultimately it's still very low. During the years, you see the recession took a toll, and then they increased during the mid 2010s, and then they fell again in 2017, and now they're there, having lower earnings and a lower stock price than they started back in the 80s, which I think is crazy, but what can you do? After the stock drop in the scheme, Rite Aid decided to buy a large American drugstore chain named Eckerd's. And Eckerd's, if you live in the East, was a drugstore chain that was similar like Rite Aid. And then after purchasing it, Rite Aid decided to rebrand some Eckerd's drugstores, and now that's a Rite Aid. It's like, hey, there used to be an Eckerd's, but now it's Rite Aid. And Brooks, which was another drugstore chain, in which they had around 1,850 stores in the United States combined. However, even despite this buyout of the chain, Rite Aid reported record losses due to the amount of money paid for the acquisition alongside the conversion process. Of course, when you buy out stores, you earn a good amount of money and you see a really bit of earnings, but then after that, you see long run expenses, and then your earnings, of course, go down if you don't manage it well or you don't have enough capital to run the stores. So we see that decrease in there. With the growing pressure of buyouts and schemes, competition alongside all their other issues, added on to their troubles with major drugstore chains such as CVS Pharmacy and Walgreens keeping up with consumers and dominating the market. Rite Aid even sold some of their stores to Walgreens after court approval to help reevaluate their focus on net income alongside their consumer base as well. So there are major stories in Rite Aid popped up in the news as seen as the second image at the bottom right beneath the stock price image that Rite Aid sold a large chunk of their stores to Walgreens, and they converted them, of course, to Walgreens drugstore chains. Um, and it was insane. It was like, wow, you bought a lot of that. And even at one point, Walgreens and Rite Aid, they wanted to merge together, but the court ultimately declined that, and they said, no, you can't do that. And ultimately it didn't happen. So as mentioned in the last slide of what is Rite Aid, this is the exact partnership that they had of selling their retail estate, their retail image, some of them to Walgreens. However, even with the pressure and the company bleeding out money, a new leadership team and horizons would change the company as it was during the beginning of the 2010s in efforts to complete the three R's: rebrand, restructure, and remodel. So to really summarize this, I know it's a lot of information, but just to turn to the 21st century, we had some accounting frauds. They're on the decline. And furthermore, to add to that pressure, we have competition from other drugstore chains. And ultimately, we had not so smart financial decisions. We'll put them down. However, we'll see a comeback, and then we'll just reevaluate from there. Rebranding, restructuring, and remodel. So I believe last year, early last year, in 2020, Rite Aid announced a new logo, and I said, "Oh, this looks weird. This isn't Rite Aid," right? Probably some people also thought of that as well, which you guys will see. And then this is actually my local Rite Aid. It was a few blocks away in Los Angeles, California, and I was passing the bus and I said, "Oh my God, it's a new image. It's a new logo." So I got off the bus and I saw this. I'm like, "This is awesome," right? So this is one of the few examples of the stores that got remodeled during that time. Here we go. Rebranding, restructuring, and remodel. After two horrible decades of scandals and losses for the company, starting in 2020, Rite Aid was committed in reorganizing their company by funding capital into its stores alongside other factors in order to reevaluate what they are known for. This actually did start in August 2019, primarily in 2020, but 2019 we'll start with. Rite Aid hired Hayward Donegan, former president and CEO of Sapphire Digital, which is a healthcare company, as the right person to lead the path of the company with her board of directors team. Donegan, alongside her team, unveiled promising news of restructuring the company in these following ways, which we'll see in three bullet points. New logo. Rite Aid unveiled a new logo alongside their restructuring plan in March 2020, which focused on health and wellness of their customers. With new colors and a minimalistic look, as shown in the last slide, this offered a breath of fresh air for the company. New design. With a goal to spend over $700 million in the next 2 years to change store operations, Rite Aid stores will look different instead of their interiors that has stayed the same since the late 1990s overhaul. As we've seen in the table of contents slide, making the right choice. And thank you for shopping at Rite Aid. There's going to be a whole new outlook in changing the interior and exterior of the store to give customers a fresh look when they go to pick up their over-the-counter drugs or just get a bottle of pop and some soda, or soda, bottle of pop, and some chips. And finally, new structure. Alongside vowing a new image and design for the retail stores, the company will ensure internal changes in their systematic approaches with a new workplace, workflow changes, and remerchandising. These factors will help implement a reborn competition against chains such as CVS and Walgreens in efforts to become an established, profitable company. These changes have helped to pick up the pace for Rite Aid and to give new light towards a brand that has been struggling for the past few decades. However, with COVID-19 and changes in the healthcare market, we begin to see the true future of Rite Aid and how it is important to follow these trends going forward. So, of course, with COVID-19, things really hit the fan in March of 2020 when, the public education system shut down and they went all virtual. Non-essential jobs were, employees in non-essential jobs were getting furloughed and everything was going downhill. And after that, seeing the true state of the healthcare market, we begin to see the future of Rite Aid and overall. So the image on the right, actually, for the slide, it shows a example of a Rite Aid of the future, and it looks pretty nice. It reminds me of a restaurant, or it reminds me of a very minimalistic grocery store. But this is actually a pharmacy, and providing better customer service and operations towards individuals who need pharmaceutical drugs is the way to go, of course, for many companies. And Rite Aid was one of them to step up, and we'll just see what the future lies with them. So, the future of Rite Aid. Under the era of restructuring, Rite Aid outlooks its future with current reports alongside consumer changes in the market. As stated in March 2021, Rite Aid outlooks that they would report a loss for the fiscal year of 2021 due to expected low sales in flu and cough medicine alongside other factors as well. And the reason why there are low sales in flu and cough medicine is due to COVID-19. And with COVID-19, it really impacted the flu season and the cough season as more individuals are going towards that instead of flu and cough. And we result in lower cases of flu due to more cases of COVID-19, and therefore you see losses in this type of medicine to treat it. With a revenue of approximately $6 billion, however, a heavy debt load and losses in their net income for the past few quarters have put a burden on the company financially. As COVID-19 persists to change customer taste, Rite Aid will continue to reevaluate their interests during a time of reconstruction and efforts to become a profitable company for the next fiscal years. So basically, just in general, Rite Aid has historically seen a high burden or just a high warning of debt. Like it's pretty bad. And when you have a high debt, you have to make sure to mitigate it to ensure, happy stakeholders in your revenue and so forth when the financial reports come out. So Rite Aid, of course, needs to focus on that, and they have to focus on the changing customer base due to COVID-19 and sales as a result. So that's basically the future for them, and they don't want to mess up like they did last time in the 2000s, the turn of the 21st century in general. Okay, and here we are in our conclusion. So Rite Aid is an American-based drugstore chain that helps provide local communities with necessary pharmaceutical drugs while also providing other goods and services such as the delicious Thrifty Ice Cream, GNC, Western Union, and others. The company, starting at the turn of the 21st century, has suffered from accounting frauds and increased competitions in the pharmaceutical drug market that has led to a decline in company sales. However, starting last year 2 years ago, under new CEO Hayward Donegan, Rite Aid began efforts to restructure the company with a new design, logo, and logistics in efforts to become competitive in the changing pharmaceutical drug and retail market. With their plan underway, the future of Rite Aid depends on their actions to control their debt and how they attend towards their continued loss in net income with COVID-19 and other burdens in place during this time. And that is about it. So I should become an analyst for Rite Aid right after this, but I'm just joking. So basically, that was a little overview on Rite Aid. Rite Aid is a very interesting company, in my opinion, to look at because A, I like Rite Aid with their thrifty ice cream, and B, is just a company you don't really see often in terms of finance, and especially that they're a drug store chain. It's interesting to see how they progress with dealing with customer actions and influences overall. So I hope this video has helped give a little perspective in the drugstore market and just to see what actions a company has to do in order to restructure the company. So thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you watching it, and we will see the next time of what retail case study we'll be looking at. Most likely, it'll be uploaded in mid-December when I am on winter break. The quarter is almost over, so hopefully I get to upload it. Until then, happy Veterans Day to you all, and thank you for watching this video. Enjoy the rest of your day.